Hello, everyone. My name is Rene Alvarez, and I give you welcome to this new ITM platform training session. I'm going to be your instructor for today, and today's topic is going to be project intake and idea management. This session is same for project managers, program managers, and PMO officers. During this session, we will cover things like how to capture a new idea that is going to become a project afterwards, how to use the out-of-the-box workflow, and how to create a program for strategic decisions based on these ideas. Okay, as a reminder, this training session will grant you 1 credit towards the ITM platform user certification. If you would like to obtain this certification, you will need 10 credits. You can obtain credits through these weekly sessions. You can get directly the certification when attending an instructor-led training course that is 10 hours or more of training. Also, continuously using ITM platform during 1 month will grant you 1 credit towards this certification. Okay. All right. So let's jump into our topic for today. Okay. I'll switch to my environment. And as usual, we will make use of a full access license to display all the different features. So what do we get started? First, we need to capture the ideas, right? Project management involves the techniques, the tools, the abilities, the people to identify the goals for a project that we already know that we need to start. Okay, but sometimes we need to manage projects in a little bit different way, starting from the point of view that instead of thinking about projects, we can think about ideas as well. Okay, in any organization, people will have ideas on things that we should do or the organization should do, but not all ideas are I'm going to say equally important or valid in certain situations. Some might make sense, some might be much more important than others. So here comes the concept of being able to capture an idea, and then afterwards deciding whether to pursue this idea or no. That is going to be one of the first questions that we will try to answer today. And the second is, once that we gather all of our ideas, how can we support decision making based on limited resources? Okay, especially with budget. So where to start? In ITM platform, we can go to the management area, right, to start the project intake or idea capture. Okay, the idea is really a project, but it's a project before it officially becomes a project. Okay, sometimes the idea is just a name, or a name plus a description, or maybe some really basic information. Okay, for ITM platform, we capture all that directly in the form of projects. Okay, so the only important aspect that we need to take into account is that, 1, we need to know the name for that new idea or project, and 2, we're going to need to know what would be the project management model. Okay, whether we would like to use an agile approach or a waterfall approach, and this will greatly depend on how our organization works. Okay, from the projects list area, I can click on add new project, but again, I need to make our first decision. I need to decide whether to use a waterfall project or an agile project. Remember, in ITAM platform, you cannot switch between those two. If you choose agile, then the project will stay on these features. If you choose waterfall, you will need to use Gantt area to create a project plan. And again, this is mostly a preference of the organization and or the project manager. If the project manager or the responsible for that project feels more comfortable working with a Kanban board, then probably the best choice is agile, right? Even if this person knows how to create a Gantt chart. But if you feel more comfortable using that Gantt chart, then choose waterfall instead. Okay. I'm gonna discuss some extra ideas after we completed the part of the scenarios. For my example, okay, I'm gonna create a waterfall project just because it's the most common type, but only for because of that. And as a project name, remember, we are thinking about ideas, right? This is truly not a project yet. I'm just proposing something that we should do, okay? So I can call this new idea, okay? And I can enter an optional description. For this idea gathering or the project intake process, it's important to provide enough information. In many cases, the one capturing this new idea is not the one that will make the decision whether to push or approve this idea at all. So we need to provide enough information so those decision makers can make the right choice. Okay. Now there is one value inside there's one field in ITAM platform which is mandatory, which is not optional. It's the project type. You need to provide this information even if you are going to change it afterwards. Okay, so that is really important. Otherwise, if you scroll down without providing that value and you click on save, you're going to get an error. Please fill in all required fields. And if you scroll up, you're going to see that the missing value is highlighted. Okay, so just make sure that you select a project type. Remember that you can update it afterwards. If turns out that you choose the wrong value, you can alter it afterwards. Don't worry about it. Okay, the only aspect that you cannot change is the approach, the project management approach. So it's going to be either through a Gantt view or a board view. Okay. So really, this is not super important right now. I'm going to choose just the first from the list. Okay, and then click on save. All right. Now, again, for ideas, it is very important to provide enough information. And I'm going to say that mainly the general tab is going to be super critical to provide with information for the decision makers. Things like which unit is going to be on charge of this project. Okay. The description that we mentioned before, the project start and end dates, or the proposed project start and end dates, because these can change afterwards. Don't worry about sprints. We will discuss sprints in another training session. Okay, but other aspects might be important. For example, when I'm proposing an idea, I usually need to give information about why this idea is important in terms of our organization. What is the benefit out of it? Okay. In ITAM platform, you can identify what is the related or connected business goal. Okay. The business goals are going to be very important for us in terms of the decision. Okay. Because it will allow me to create a connection between my projects and the strategic planning. Where can you provide those values? Because in the general tab for a new idea, okay, or new project, you simply need to choose the appropriate business goal. But where is this information coming from? Okay, let me show you that. Now that we saved this one, before selecting the business goal, I'm gonna jump in here. Sorry, let me disable. all notifications. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go here, and I can expand objectives and processes, right? And I'm going to see business goals, business processes, and business goal category. This is usually provided by the PMO, right? If you are members of the PMO, you have those permissions. You will be able to access the organization tab, okay, and then see or update what you can find under business goals or business processes. So what I'm going to do is show you that now, right? If I go to business goals, I have in here first a business plan. A business plan is like a container, is a reference, is a name, basically, that will allow me to identify what are the main business goals. Okay, so business plan is like the highest container. It's a reference for yearly plans or 5-year plan or 10-year plan, right? So it is infrequent that we need to update them, right? Very frequently. The shortest time is usually 1 year, right? If you try to plan anything smaller than 1 year, probably it's not going to work, right? So 1 year is short, 2 years is very common, 3-5 years is even better, right? If you can see that ahead of time. Okay, so again, the business plan is simply a name, right? Let me show you that if I click on the name, it's going to give me the details, and the details is the name for that business plan and when we think is going to start. Okay, as you can see, it starts on the beginning of 2023 and goes to the end of 2024. So by that time, I would expect to have achieved certain goals, certain business goals. The business goals are defined in the second table. In here, I can create as many goals as I need, right? There is no technical limit on how many goals you can have, but there are some recommendations, okay? Try to identify the business goals so there are no less than 3, okay? I'm going to recommend something between 5 and 7. Do not create more than 10 business goals for a specific period of time, because probably that means that we are trying to address just too much. There is one exception to that. Instead of creating business goals for the entire organization, I can create business goals for certain areas only. And then, yes, I can have, I don't know, 50 different business goals because I'm referencing business goals for each department or each area on the organization, okay? But feel free to capture whatever you need. What is a business goal? A business goal is, again, a name, okay, that belongs to a particular business plan, and optionally, you can capture a description. The description is optional, but it will allow you to make better decisions, all right? Okay, similar to this, we can capture business processes. This would be important if you would like to map your projects to for example, a value chain, okay? Or activities or certain processes. You can capture all of those in these tables and then make the reference inside a project, okay? Again, this is mainly for visualization or reports or analysis. And the last area in here is going to be the category, the category for our business goals. Which categories we should consider for our organization. This is non-project related. This is organization related, but it's going to be important from the perspective of the project to get it approved. Okay. All right. So once we have all that information, let's go back to the projects list. Let me open here the idea that we captured before. And again, I can start selecting those elements in here. For example, what is the business goal? Okay. What is the category to which I would like to relate this project? The expected ROI. Remember that ITAM platform is a multi-currency system. So enter the expected ROI in any currency that you want. The description of the benefit, that this is going to be important as well, right? In terms of the decision. Other things that might be important would be this main process affected if I have that that list of processes. Okay. Things like the sponsor. The sponsor is also not a person; it's an area of our organization, as well as the internal client. The external client, which might be important for certain projects, not this type of projects. I'm going to explain that in a second. This list of external clients come from the client's area, right? If you would like to track external clients because you are selling your projects, right? Most of the time, I don't question whether I should pursue that project or no, right? If the client says yes, then I'm going to do the project. So I require no decision making, okay? I simply wait for the client's approval. What we are discussing about idea intake and this decision process is more related to internal projects, where I'm not sure whether I should pursue that project or no, okay? All right, once we have enough information here, okay, there is one last piece of information that might be relevant for what you are about to see. Because projects are in this process of approving projects, we need to take into account not just the relationship between the idea and the rest of the organization or other projects even, but it's going to be important, the budget, how much money I'm going to need if I would like to say yes to this project, okay? Even if I don't know with a lot of detail, I still need to have a general overview on what are these projects' costs, okay? So I'm going to need to build a budget, right? We have another session to discuss finance in detail, okay? So for the time being, I'm going to just focus on this top-down budget, okay? And how this is going to affect the rest of the process. So I'm going to click on Edit Top-Down Budget, okay? And I can create this budget by, well, entering directly the cost, or for the specific aspect of using teams or assigning tasks to people, right? I can start with hours if I want to, because there is a list of rates already created in ITM Platform, supported in ITM Platform. Let me give you the whole idea, right? For example, for internal team, maybe I think that I'm going to need to use 250 hours, right? So I capture 250 hours, and if I click on that calculator, it's going to display what is the rate that is going to use, and then what would be the total cost for the 250 hours that I just entered. If I would like to use these values, then I simply need to click on copy to cost. Perfect. I have that part, right? But again, for even for teams, I don't need to necessarily enter the number of hours. I can enter directly the budget. For example, let's say that I have another 20,000, right, for external team. I don't know how many hours I would like to assign to them, right? Or maybe I'm currently undecided whether I should use external team or internal team. So I can divide these, or I can simply put it under undefined team, right? So instead of this, I can put those 20,000 in here. In the end, it really doesn't matter, because ITM Platform, what it does is that it will calculate the total, right? Right now, I'm thinking about budget. So it's going to be important, the currency value. Now, I can also anticipate a budget for extra purchases. What are extra expenses I'm gonna need to track for my project? So maybe this is gonna represent another 15,000, right? So that will give me a total of 45,000, okay, for the entire project. And remember, probably since this is an internal project, it will not give any direct revenue, right? Because I'm not selling this project. Okay, if you are selling the project, the revenue is going to be important. Or if you can somehow track a direct financial benefit of executing this project, then you can consider that as revenue, right? For the time being, I'm going to leave it blank because I'm simulating an internal project. Okay, so now I have a budget. And just to complete the scenario, right, I'm going to go back to the general tab and make sure that we have some dates for reference, right? For example, I'm going to say that this project will need to start the second week in November, and I think this project should be completed by the end of March, okay? Something like that. All right, let's save the changes. And that would conclude this, I'm going to say, initial process of capturing the idea, right? But then we need to discuss something else, how this idea is going to progress through the life cycle. And for that, I have this project status value. Okay, as you can see, at this time it says in progress. All right, let me explain that part. Before making changes to this, I'm going to go to the configuration and project parameters to better show you this. Project statuses will represent the path for the project lifecycle in our organization, okay? In other words, which steps in that process I should consider, right? And I need to also anticipate whenever I'm creating a new project, what is going to be the initial step. And as you can see from this configuration, it says that new projects will start on in progress, which probably is an error, right? Especially for internal projects. I should not start executing the project. I will need to start by defining the business case. So probably this is incorrect, right? So instead of following this, I could change this to move it to, yeah, for example, move it to initial, right? So from now on, every time that I create a new project is going to be on the initial step, right? And from the initial step, what are the next statuses? In this case, I can cancel the project, I can push it to draft, or I can move it to in progress. Okay. So let's decide something real quick. I'm going to propose that first I create the idea that is going to be on the initial step. And then when I'm deciding to approve it or no, I'm going to move it to draft, and the decision will happen in here. If the decision is yes, then later I'm going to move it to in progress, correct? So what is that? That is what I'm trying to say in here, right? But this is configured by either the PMO or the system admin. As a project manager, I shouldn't need to worry about this too much because I'm just being able to change the value for the state. So what happens on the project? Let's go back to the project. Okay, it's here my new idea. And since this is wrong, I'm going to change the project status. How can I change the project status? I simply need to click on that button and select the new status. Okay, I have an issue here. I'm going to fix it right away because the new status is only close, on hold, cancel. I want to reset it back to the initial. So for that, what I'm going to do real quick is make another change into the system. So at least momentarily, I'm going to activate that I can move it to the initial step. All right. Great. So let's do it again. Let's go to new idea. And now I'm going to be able to select the initial state, right? All right. I'm going to put a comment in here. In progress was selected by error. right? So probably this project should be on the initial stage, okay? All right, perfect. Now we have our idea, and then we need to proceed to the next step, okay? To the next status stage, if you will. That always happens in here. And let me explain one quick thing. We're going to explain this aspect in more detail in our workflow training session. However, when I change the workflow, when I change the project status to a new status, like for example, draft, okay, iTunes platform will identify whether there is an authorization that needs to happen. Okay, as you can see at this stage, there's no authorization needed. So I can freely go from initial to draft. You can model things like, yeah, I really need someone's authorization to move the project from initial to draft. You can decide and you can configure that in iTunes platform, okay? For the time being, this one is manual. All right. So I have my idea capture. What is the next step? Usually the next step is to engage into a decision-making process, right? And iTunes platform supports that from one very interesting perspective. And that perspective is the program, okay? I need to, I'm gonna say, step out the project or the idea, my proposal, and I need to step into another point of view, the point of view of the organization, right? What is the measurable benefit of executing this project, right? Whether I should approve it or no, right? That, again, in iTunes platform happens inside a program. There are two main reasons why you would like to create programs in iTunes platform. One is exactly this, decision-making. A second would be to simply group certain projects. Remember that I mentioned that a project cannot be changed from waterfall to agile or vice versa, correct? There are some cases where your projects might contain those two aspects. My project is somehow complex, and I would like to have an agile aspect and a waterfall aspect for the same project. So even if that is not directly supported in iTunes platform, what I can do, right, is create a program to put those two projects together. So I can have like, I'm going to say like a sub project that is on Agile form and another one which is in Agile, right? And I can group them into a program, okay? But in this case, we are thinking about decisions. So now let me go into this program. We already have a scenario here, so I want to show it to you. The program is something very similar to the idea, but on a much higher level, right? I need to give it a name for sure. I can enter things like the priority, the program type, the program status, similar to the project, right? But this time, these are basically catalogs, right? There is no workflow connected to the program. The program is a higher level plan, right? That is that will help me on this decision-making process, but also it will show me, it will display the projects that I connected to. So most of the time we don't need to use or think about a workflow in terms of program management, sorry, okay? But I can definitely enter all the values, like even the fiscal year and when I think this project, this program will be activated, okay? So again, this is mainly the description, the identification of the program, if you will. Next, I need to provide a connection between the programs and the projects, correct? So for that, I'm going to go to the components tab. And as you can see, we say components, not projects. The reason for this, and let me explain that real quick, is because inside a program, we can have both projects and services, okay? That's why this area is called components, not just projects, because you can bring on services as well, okay? and they're going to be listed in here. How can you bring on more components? Simply click on select components, right? And choose them from the list, projects and services. Now take a look at this. Show components included in other programs. In ITM Platform, you can have a project that is part of multiple programs, okay? Even if that is not necessarily a good idea all the time, there are situations where you want that, okay? This is totally fine. So as you can see, I have my new idea in here, right? What can I do with it? Simply add it to this new program and click on save. And now it's going to be listed in here. It's going to tell me things like the status, the priority, the approval, when to start, when to end, what is the total budget, etc. Okay. All right, perfect. What is the next step? Similar to the components, I need to relate my program to the strategy. And for that, I have the business goals tab. Okay. First, I have an area to describe the benefit of executing this program. So what is the overall benefit, right? Why should we approve everything inside the program? Why, or in other words, why this program is important for the organization in terms of the description. But then we are going to calculate in terms of numbers, right? Why this program is important. And as you can see, below I have the list of goals that this program will touch, that this program will support, okay? So I simply need to understand what this program will represent, what this program will bring on in terms of general benefits, and identify what are the goals that are going to be affected or supported by this program. If I click on select goals, it's going to present me with the business goals grouped by business plan. Okay. As you can see, you can have a lot of them. And from here, you can select which ones are activated for this program. So a single program can touch many different goals, correct? All right. Now it's time to measure things, okay? In terms of budget, if I go in here into the budget tab, I'm going to see first the area for program budgets. Similar to what you saw for a project, you can build the program budget in a similar way. How much money you have for this program in total. And ITM Platform will calculate the total for the components that you selected. And if you want to see individual components, those are listed in here, including the one that we just created. Okay. All right. More measures. Now is going to be the important aspect of the calculation. We can put all this together, right, to create metrics that will tell me if a project or an idea is convenient for our organization and why, right? That happens on the strategic alignment tab. This area will allow you to create many different scenarios. It's not a single scenario that you can create in here. You can create many different scenarios to make the best decision possible, okay? This is just a sample. A pessimistic to grow to 80% sales, realistic 95, and optimistic 110%, right? How can you create a scenario? Well, it's really simple. I simply need to click on Add New Scenario and give it a name. Right? You can enter a description, the reason why you are creating this one, why is different than the others, etc. Okay? And as you can see, you can create it from blank, or you can copy one existing scenario. So copy the values from one to another, so you don't need to do all that we are going to do, okay? So I'm going to copy, for example, the realistic and click on save. Now, What happens when I create a new scenario? What is available? Not just the name, correct? If we open a scenario, it has 3 extra tabs inside. First, the business goal prioritization. What is this? This is the list of business goals that we choose from the business goals tab. But the important part on this is that now we need to have a value in here, okay? And there are 3 ways where we can get this value calculated. Sorry. Whoops. Sorry, I did something wrong here. So yeah, here we go. As you can see, it says that, wow, sorry about that. My mouse is behaving weird. Okay, so as you can see, it says in here that the method that we use for having these values is the pairwise comparison method. Okay, so let me show you the options. If I click on prioritize, it will present me with 3 different options. The last one is pairwise comparison. This is the most complex but detailed method, okay? If I click on prioritize through pairwise comparison, it will display all the business goals, so I can select the proper value comparing one by one. For example, how important is new product range launch against gross sales by 20%? Okay. And I can select, for example, that it is more important to launch this new product. Is moderately more important than, or strongly more important than gross sales by 20%, or maybe it's less important. Okay. So you make the decision for each case, right? You just need to consider this white background area, right? Item platform automatically will compare the rest. And in this diagonal, you will always have a 1, right? Because it's the same, it's the same business goal. Okay. Now, this other warning is important. We need to watch the consistency ratio. Okay. It needs to be higher than 0.1. This is a calculation. It's a quite complex calculation, right? But it basically tells me if my answers are consistent. Okay. If I say that new product range launch is less important than gross sales by 20%, and then I say that, for example, improve brand recognition. Improve brand recognition is, new product range launch is more important than improved brand recognition, okay? Then I cannot say that gross sales by 20% is more important than improved brand recognition, correct? Because that would be inconsistent. So if I say that this is the case, then it's gonna reduce my consistency ratio, right? Because I'm not being consistent here. So in other words, we just need to make these comparisons carefully, okay? Since I don't want to waste your time with this scenario, I'm going to open the one that we have calculated before. So let me go back to the strategy alignment, open this one, okay? And again, if I click on prioritize and I click on prioritize, here are our answers, comparing everything in here, okay? So as you can see, now the consistency ratio tells me that I'm okay, right? My answers are consistent. I have no warning, and then I can proceed with the calculation. Other choices are qualitative rating, that simply uses this drop down to calculate the relative importance of a business goal inside a program, or quantitative rating, which means to provide directly the value. We just need to make sure that the total adds up to 100. In this case, it does not add up because this is calculated. We have decimals from the pairwise comparison matrix, okay? All right. Similar to these business goals, we can compare components. It's exactly the same process. Okay. So actually for this time, I'm gonna, let's click on prioritize. And in here, as you can see, a single project can touch many different business goals. So I can say that this is gonna support it like this, and it's gonna be more related to gross sales. It has nothing to do with improved brand recognition, but it will give me some support about this one, right? So this is another way in which you can calculate it. All right. Once everything is set up, the last step is to go to the component selection. And actually, let me maximize this area, okay? First, let me explain what is happening. First, I have 3 charts. In the first chart, it's gonna show me the total value, that calculated value that we saw in the previous step, against the cost. The cost is the budget, okay? And the icon will represent whether I'm choosing that project or no, to be approved or to be included in the scenario. The next chart is the same, it's total value against cost, but this time it will display the efficient frontier, okay? The efficient frontier will try to minimize the use of budget, maximizing the total value, okay? So basically, this chart will tell me my selection, how close or how far is it to the optimized scenario. For example, in this case, with 2 extra million, I'm not getting anything extra of value, right? What happens if I go from this point to this point, right? I reduce the budget. Well, I'm saving a lot of money. I'm saving $2 million, and I'm still getting over 40% business value. So what would be the reason of spending those 2 million? Does that make sense or no, right? The reason, as you can see, or as you can imagine, is this, whoops, sorry, no, this is still wrong, is this new flagship project, because this one is very expensive, okay? And this is causing my scenario to move to the right, okay? I'm gonna move things in a second. The last chart is how are we supporting the different business goals, right? So in terms of the priority that we have for each, right? We should support gross sales by 20% the most, okay? So it's basically telling me how I'm spending the money in terms of these business goals that we selected in the program. So how can I make use of this scenario, of this tool? Again, I can do it manually. For example, what if I disable the new flagship product? I simply need to uncheck it, okay? And then click on Update Charts. If I update the charts, take a look at this. Yes, I'm spending much less. Probably this is not a great idea because now I'm just achieving 15.2% of business value. So I don't like that, right? But this tool is to play around with this, right? How can you get more value with the same amount of money? And there are different things that you can do. For example, if you simply read the table, you can select other projects. What if we select this new product line instead? If I select this one, okay, it moves to the top, and then I click on Update Charts. See this? Now we are 59.2% of business value. I'm just spending less than 1 million. Okay, I'm very close to 60%. Let me show you another way in which you can make use of this tool. For example, maybe I would like to sort first my projects by total budget. So if I click on total budget, sorry, let me uncheck everything, okay? And let's click, all right, just a second. Yeah, we still have one. All right, here we go. If I click on total budgets, It's going to sort them by total budget, right? So now, if I have a limit in my mind, right? For example, I don't want to spend more than $1 million, okay? Instead of manually doing the math and checking the projects that I would like to approve, I can drag and drop this yellow bar, okay? So if I drag and drop, it's going to start adding it. I just need to read that yellow bar. And once I reach the limit, then I'm done. And this will display the scenario, the selected scenario, whether I will, the question here is, would I like to execute this list of projects or no? Or the decision is different, okay? Again, this tool is not to propose a solution. It's for you to see the impact of approving one project or another in terms of the budget, right? All right. With this, I can go to my decision makers and present them with the different scenarios. I can show them one by one so they can make the best decision in terms of business value, business goals, right? And if I click on save and approve, well, I can simply save my scenario, or I can click on save and approve. The difference is that save and approve will mark those selected projects as approved, correct? And approved, let me show you here real quick. Approved is a value inside a project. So this approval status, approved, is updated by that scenario. So if my project went through a process of scenario planning, right, through programs, and we approved it because it makes sense inside the strategic scenario, then I'm going to see the approval status move to approved. Okay. All right. Well, that is all that we have for today. So at this time, I would like to check if you have questions. Meanwhile, I would like to ask your help. We would like to achieve 5 stars on Capterra. So if you can give us your comments on Capterra, we will really appreciate your comments. All right, looks like we don't have questions for today. As a last reminder, you can always go to our help guides. We have a lot of information in there on how to make a better use of iTEM platform. I'm going to suggest also to go to our blogs section. We have a lot of information in terms of strategic planning and KPIs and measuring the performance on your PMO and your organization, how to improve the performance of the entire organization through iTEM platform. If you cannot find the answer that you're looking for, please write us an email to support@itemplatform.com, and we will happy to answer your questions. All right, that'll be all for today. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you on our next training session. Thank you very much.